We arrived by TGV in Lyon at noon and were picked up by Loïc, one of our hosts at l'Orangerie in Annonay. During the drive, we chatted about many things and got to know him. When we arrived, we met his partner, Clémence, who is a lovely woman.
And here is our home for the next 2 weeks. As you walk in, there's a toilet room on the side here. You don't need to see that. But there's the bedroom. And it's just beautiful, with beautiful views out the window. And the nice king-size bed. And then a fireplace. And then as we go through here, we go into the bathroom, which is the biggest bathroom we've seen since we've been here, with a nice shower. So I think we're going to be very, very happy here for the next 2 weeks.
We ate with Loïc and Clémence and had pissaladière, a caramelized onion dish with anchovies, followed by a niçoise salad with tuna that had been seared with soy sauce, and finished with an almond cake with sautéed apples on top with a praline paste. After lunch, we headed out for a walk in the town. We discovered that there were 3 areas. First, an area with mostly empty shops. That is the up-and-coming area, as the town is slowly recovering after the loss of its leather industry years ago. The second is the old town, which is very medieval, with narrow winding streets and lovely old buildings with a big square in the middle. The third is the new town with the train station, commercial businesses, and supermarket. It's a very interesting place. Afterwards, we headed to Azimut for dinner. We enjoyed a cheese and charcuterie board, a terrine with pistachios. We had a bottle of local wine, a light red made from Grenache, Syrah, and Cinsault that tasted just like cherries. We had planned to have just a cup of tea when we came home, and as we entered l'Orangerie, we said hello to a couple other guests that were sitting at the table finishing off their dinner. Loïc and the guests graciously invited us to have a glass of wine with them, a Northern Rhone Syrah, as well as a small glass of raspberry liqueur. We spent well over an hour chatting with the guests and our hosts about a wide range of topics, including millennials, politics, travel, jobs, governments, and the differences between countries. We both really enjoyed this unique experience. Today we decided to explore Annonay's history thanks to a discovery walk. On our walk we saw lots of evidence of medieval fortifications, ancient bridges, a memorial to people killed by the Nazis, a beautiful park, a church, a tiny EV, a former prison, and a fountain waiting to be bagged. While near the park, there was a flea market that we wandered through. At one point, a couple of young women smiled and said, "Hi," and "Hello," to which I responded, "Bonjour," which caused them to giggle. As our walk continued, we went to a square which commemorated Annonay's sister city in Germany. We then saw some great views of the city, realizing it is much bigger than we formerly thought. We saw lots of medieval streets, climbed a zillion stairs, and enjoyed the still sunny day. One site was the Tour des Martyrs, which commemorated all of the Protestants and Catholics killed during religious wars in Annonay. Apparently, people from both religions were thrown from different towers throughout the city during the religious wars. We then walked back and enjoyed a warm afternoon sitting in the sun porch, reading and relaxing. Tonight we had an aperitif before dinner, celebrating Mother's Day for Kath, being the mother of our wonderful kids. For dinner we ate with Loïc and Clémence, as well as Clémence's aunt and uncle. we started with deviled eggs. Accompanying this was a white wine from the Loire that had Chardonnay and Sassay grapes. The main course was pork cheeks on mashed potatoes, accompanied by a Cornas Syrah that was a bistro-style drink-now wine that was amazing. Then, for dessert, pavlova with fresh strawberries, accompanied with a Spanish sweet wine. After that, we had a local digestive made from verbena. Today was a real learning day. It started off at 9 o'clock with French lessons with our teacher, Marion. It was a bit difficult to start, but we were enjoying ourselves by the end of the 2-hour lesson. After lunch, we went for a walk by the river at Annonay. We saw some great street art and some nice views of the river. When we returned, we had a cooking lesson. We learned how to make leek oil, a miso sauce, and how to cook the leeks to make a leek and miso dish. Next, we learned how to cut up a whole chicken and how to roll the chicken breast into a sausage shape for cooking.
Quand l'alcool bout, when alcohol is boiling.
Whoa!
Nice.
And I could use my brulee torch too, though.
Yes.
Accompanying dinner was a fine Pinot Noir and Gamay Noir blend from the Loire Valley. For dessert, we made crêpes Suzette, which had simple ingredients, but took a real deft hand to make into a delicious dish. And after dinner, we had a little bit of French Scotch whiskey. After our morning French lesson, which was actually quite enjoyable, we went with Loach and headed out on another adventure. He had to connect with some of his wine suppliers, so we went along for the ride. Our first stop was Domaine Valais, and we were treated to tastings of Marsanne, Roussanne, Viognier, and several Syrah. This is the northern Rhone region, and there were tastings from both Saint-Joseph and Condroux areas. We did ask about a bottle of their excellent rosé, but they only had a 5-liter box, which was just 17 euros. We then toured through and around the village of Melval, and then drove above it to have a fantastic view of the village, as well as the surrounding areas. Our afternoon of touring continued as we went to Domaine Novice. The woman doing the tasting spoke mostly in French, but Loïc translated for us when necessary. She gave us lots of information about the wines, and I truly appreciated the time and care that went into crafting such delicious wine. We bought a bottle of rosé and a bottle of their more premium Syrah for just 27 euros or $35 for both bottles of wine. The last stop of our touring was probably the most unique. It was a distillery run by 2 women that distill the alcohol using the must from the vineyard across the road. There were distilled beverages that contained verbena, vermouth, raspberries, anise, as well as gin and absinthe. And yes, we tried them all. I'm not sure what we had for dinner that night, but this dessert was absolutely delicious, like all of the pastries and desserts that Clemence made. Today we had yet another exciting adventure. After breakfast, we went down to our local supermarket, the Super U, and with Loic's assistance, rented a Renault Clio for the day. We managed to get out of Annonay without incident and drove through the country roads, toll highways, and about 100 roundabouts for an hour until we reached Vienne. All was well until we got to the parking garage. We tried to park but couldn't figure out how to put the stick in reverse. A few YouTube videos later, we solved the problem and parked. We looked at many things: Roman ruins, a market, statues, and a park. As we continued our tour of Vienna, we saw a church, an amazing Roman temple, a big cow, some fun arty things, and another very old church. Then it was time for lunch in Vienna. We went to Ma Grand-Mère restaurant, and I had a Saint-Marcellin salad, which is basically a salad with deep fried cheese, while Kath had a salmon gravlax salad. We both had rosé, of course. Our last site was the Roman amphitheater. Over 2,000 years old, it is still used for concerts. Other than the construction crews getting ready for the next concert, we were the only people there. Top of the amphitheater. Pretty amazing. All the way up those stairs. After that, we headed to the garage, got our Clio, and headed home. Today was another amazing day in the Ardèche region. After breakfast, French lessons, laundry time and lunch, we went with Loïc and Clémence to the town of Saint-Bonnet-le-Foy, where there is an amazing wine store, a 5-star hotel, and a 3-star Michelin restaurant. We met the co-owner of all three, and she spent well over an hour chatting with us about the history of the town and their business. After enjoying our espresso and mushroom chocolate, mushrooms are huge here, we went on a walk around the village, seeing the restaurant, some art, and some amazing views. During our walk, we ended up at a local artist's studio. It was great as he did all sorts of paintings and sculptures. He even showed us the foundry where he forged his sculptures. A really interesting artist. Finally, it was time for the tasting. We followed Thomas, our caviste, to the cellar for our wine tasting. Some of the wines in the cellar were truly amazing. Leave me here with a plate of cheese, a baguette, and a wine glass. Our first tasting was a Beausoleil, which is the name of a grape as well as the wine. It is from a wine appellation called Franton in the southwest of France, just north of Toulouse. The next wine was La Tourette from Rousselin, which was a wine made mostly from Tourbat, which I had never heard of either. Third up was a local wine, a Domaine Le Grandjean, made from the Chatas grape, a red wine grape. This was a dark, brooding wine with tastes of dark fruits. Finally, we had a sweet wine, a Lerme de Sentel 2008, made from Grenache Gris. It was served with an amazing apple and pear tart from a local boulangerie. At the end of our amazing tasting, Thomas showed us the priciest wine on hand, a 2009 Hermitage that sells for around 7,000 euros a bottle. Another amazing day in France. Today we had yet another delicious breakfast prepared by Clémence, and then another excellent French lesson with Marion. After coffee, we rented bikes at Annonay Vélo, and after a lot of confused city riding, ended up on the Via Fluvia. This bike path follows an old train path, which is beside the Rhone River, but it goes all the way to the Loire. We rode about 11 kilometers each way, stopping for lunch on the way there for a picnic, and stopping for a beer in Saint-Marcel on the way back. The weather was perfect, not a cloud in the sky and not too hot, just the right temperature for a day's ride. We were excited to have another delicious dinner that night, which was followed by an amazing pastry. Today we had a day off of French lessons, so after yet another wonderful breakfast, we headed to the local farmers market in Annonay with Louis and Clémence. There were a lot of wonderful producers, and our job was to select some of the vegetables for lunch. We chose artichokes, garlic, peas, and lettuce, while our hosts selected the rest. There was cheese, sausage, lamb chops, beautiful strawberries, and much more. After we made our purchases, we had a coffee and then headed back to l'Orangerie to prepare our meal. We prepared the artichoke hearts, which were fried in oil and salt, peas, and beans boiled briefly and then cooled in ice water, as well as shucked oysters. Louis fried up a wonderful specialty, Iberian pig neck, which was amazing. He also grilled some lamb chops. This was added to some delicious cheeses, sausage, salad, and fruit for a wonderful family-style meal, accompanied by a glass of Viognier. Today was Sunday, so, of course, almost everything is closed in France. After brunch, we headed out for a hike. We walked by the Lecance River until we left Annonay and headed towards the Valley of Cants. It was a lovely walk full of trees, green plants, flowers, interesting buildings, and views of the river. There were bridges and cyclists galore. At a branch on the road, we decided to go up the steep hill to Vernosque-les-Annonay to see if we could take a break there. Everything in the small town was closed, except for the bar where some young men were gathered, watching and betting on horse racing. It was quite a bit hotter on the return, but luckily we have hats on, sunscreen, and a bottle of water each. For dinner tonight, we had escargot, a delicious pork chop with seasonal vegetables, and a lovely cake with a creamy pudding wonderful blob of goo beside the cake. After breakfast, French lessons, and lunch, we went with our hosts, Loïc and Clémence, for a nature walk with a wonderful outgoing person, Jeanne. She knew so many things about nature and edible plants. There were daisies and poppies and acacia trees and wild asparagus and a host of other edible plants.
Nettles, be careful.
Wait.
Cuidado.
Oh, ouch.
They're actually blooming.
Okay.
She helped us identify them and tell which parts were edible, and then we tasted them. The tastes ranged from sweet and honey-like, to garlic, to peas, to asparagus, to bitter, to hazelnut, to wasabi, to mint. The nature walk was more like a hike, so it was a good thing that we had been practicing yesterday. After our walk, Jean took us to a picnic area for a chance to taste some of the things we had seen. We drank elderflower and acacia beverages and ate cheese mixed with a plant wrapped in a linden leaf. Delicious. She also had elderflower jelly, which was super tasty. Jean spent quite a lot of time with us and was such a dynamic person. Back at l'Orangerie, it was time to prepare dinner. First, we prepared a delicious amuse-bouche made with acacia and elderberry, coated in batter and fried. For our starter, we had asparagus that was in a bed of yogurt mixed with lemon juice and tahini. For the main course was a Lyon specialty, a ground lamb meatball mixed with cabbage and spinach that was fried and charred. Accompanying it were tiny little raviolis that had been fried all on a nice bed of lettuce. For dessert, we were surprised by one of our favorite desserts ever, tarte tropézienne. We had mentioned to Clemence and Loic a couple of days ago that it was our favorite dessert ever, and although it was a nightmare to actually bake it, they found a patisserie that made a wonderful version. After breakfast, a croissant and little sugary cake poppers, and French lessons, some grammar and a lot of politics, we rented a Peugeot and drove to Valence. This medieval city was very interesting, and the tourist information had an excellent map where we could do a walk through the medieval town and find out about buildings, churches, stairways, statues, arches, sculptures, and more. One of our favorites was the Église Saint-Jean. As we neared the church, we heard music, so we went inside. The organist was practicing. After, we stopped at Maison Nivon for a lovely treat before moving on. After our treat, we decided to have a beer. This is when everything fell apart. It was 4:15, and the car was due back at 5:30, and it was just over an hour away. We made pretty good time until we got to a toll booth pay exit. My credit card was declined. As the line of cars grew behind us, Catherine jumped out of the car, opened up the trunk, and found one of my extra credit cards. Luckily, we were only 15 minutes late, and the rental lady was not so concerned. Once we got back to the l'Orangerie, we needed a nice drink. Catherine had a gin and tonic, while I had a tomate, basically a pastis with grenadine. Yum! Today we had a leisurely breakfast at 9:30 and then headed into town to purchase a couple of French graphic novels. After that, we went to Frangine for a couple of beers, as well as a cheese plate. This trip has been a revelation in trying new things, and both Kath and I really enjoyed the blue cheese that was served with the beer. In the afternoon, we had our third cooking lesson at l'Orangerie. We learned how to make a marble cake and profiteroles. Clémence guided us step by step through the process, and we were fully engaged in making these tasty desserts. Making pastry is difficult. After our pastry lesson, which was over 3 hours, it was time for our 2-hour French lesson with Marianne. And after our lessons, it was time for dinner. First was a legume and crouton salad with a soy egg on top. Then another fantastic dish, a stuffed tomato surrounded by chopped up chorizo, parmesan, and breadcrumbs. We finished with the lovely profiteroles that we had made, and they were amazing.
Like when you're glazing?
I'm gonna pour it all over the whole thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
After breakfast, including some marble cake that we had prepared yesterday, French lessons, laundry and lunch, we had a great spa experience at the Spa du Rhône in Sablon. Back at l'Orangerie, after some beautiful Toulouse sausages for dinner, the wine we had was a lovely Syrah from the area around Vienne. After dinner, there was much conversation about food, wine, and of course politics. Catherine and I found ourselves understanding much of what was said, and even responding sometimes in French rather than in English. Today was a hard day because it was our last. After breakfast, we headed out with Louis and Clémence to Saint-Désiré to begin a walk in the vineyards with our lovely guide, Sandrine. This was not a simple walk through some flat vineyards, but a walk from the bottom of what seemed to be like a mountain to the top, which just happened to have vineyards along the way. Halfway up, we stopped at the Galerie Georges Chaliat, which is an old train tunnel that has been repurposed into a 100-meter-long hall that is used for special events, weddings, and large dinners. The hall is gorgeous inside and is a hidden gem in the region. Onward, we went up the hill, higher and higher, with more and more beautiful views and scenery. When we got to the top of the vineyard, a picnic table was set up with wine and cheese and bread and sausage. We sat down and Sandrine went over some wine tasting basics with us, and then we proceeded to enjoy some delicious wines. And finally, we were just about to start a côte rôtie when something happened. All of a sudden, Clémence brought out all this other food, salad, sandwiches, fruit, and more. It was what they call a bon franquette, a gathering of family and friends in the great outdoors.
Ah, le verre, ah oui, c'est vrai que le verre est pas terrible. Hein. Oh là 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 là.
Qui a bu ce verre? C'est toi, lui?
Non, c'est pas versé.
Papa. Okay, you got to be more exciting this time. This is not good. This is not good for my social media, for my TikTok.
That was not a picture, that was a video. So, cheers.
Cheers! Yeah, go ahead. Cheers! 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 There we go. That's better. All right. It was like the important people from the last 2 weeks, plus some special guests, had all shown up for a party for us. After an amazing party, Mère Anne drove us to Devezeux for our final French lesson that began in a cafe, and then we wandered around the market in Davao. We saw lots of sellers of vegetables, cheese, meat, and sausage, and ended up chatting for a while with a guy selling Colombian coffee. Back at l'Orangerie, we had our final dinner with Clémence and Laure. It was bittersweet, but we enjoyed a delicious lyonnaise salad and then some roasted cauliflower, which surprised me because it was delicious.
C'est bon.
Reflecting on our time at l'Orangerie, there was fantastic food, cooking lessons, French lessons, cultural experiences, and most importantly, the real connection between us and Loïc and Clémence, as well as the other people we have met over the last 2 weeks. It has been a dream come true.